Ballet costume is not something that a lot of people are aware of or are knowledgeable on. And so, and then when it comes to the actual names of ballet costume designers, I think even more so. I don't think a lot of people, except in the dance world, really know who Barbara Karинська was, or even know the name at all. Right now we're in the New York City Ballet costume shop. This shop has been in existence since the early 90s. We produce all the costumes for New York City Ballet, as well as keeping the repertory looking good. We have a shop of about 18 people, stitchers, drapers, dyers. So Ms. Karинська actually did not work here. This shop was created about 10 years after she had passed away. Her shop, while she was with New York City Ballet, was down on 61st Street. Before that, it was on 57th Street. And before that, she had her own costume shop on 44th Street. So she moved around a lot.
My sense of her is that she was an incredibly modern woman. So when the revolution broke out in Russia, her husband was involved in the political sphere and he stayed behind, and she originally moved to Paris and he was supposed to follow her. And after a few months, she basically decided, yeah, he's going to stay there and I need to move on with my life. So she divorced him on a postcard, just so she could move on and have new adventures. But not that she was unfeeling, but I think she, for her work was the most important thing. And she was also incredibly practical. And again, like she was a woman coming into her power at a moment in history where women's rights were very much in conversation. And I think that she took advantage of that so that she could have a real career and not just be a seamstress working for a man designing costumes, that she herself could be the designer of the costumes.
I think she brought dance costume to a different level. She certainly, she certainly created the powder puff tutu for Balanchine, which revolutionized the tutu in ballet all over the world. It became an international costume sensation.
Karинська started working for Balanchine in 1948. Well, they had worked together before that. I mean, they worked together as early as the late 1920s. And she was originally attached to the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo here in America. And then she started to work consistently for Balanchine in 1948 when they became New York City Ballet. But then New York City Ballet got a Ford Foundation grant, and that enabled Balanchine to set her up properly with her own sort of seamstress shop. And then she was able to sort of make all the costumes that he needed at the level that he needed.
These are some of my favorites. This is from Symphony in C. I mean, this is pretty famous because this is when she and Balanchine developed the powder puff tutu, which was a tutu that they really wanted to create because Balanchine liked having a lot of dancers on stage. That was it was his style, yes, is to have a lot of dancers. And to have a lot of dancers, but have them in the kind of very imperial, flat Russian tutu was very difficult because it was too crowded. So they created this softer, what they call a powder puff tutu. They took out the tutu wire. They took out some of the layers of tulle and net and created something that was softer, that moved more with the dancer and didn't kind of bounce. And many times they said that with the older flat tutus, that once they stopped moving, the tutu still kept moving. Modern designers are inspired by what she did. She was amazing in that she worked with expensive, luxurious fabrics, silk satins and that kind of thing, and expensive silk tools.
So these are the swatches. So I was telling you earlier, like she'd make the renderings for the costumes, but then she'd also give Balanchine indications of the different kinds of fabrics and the layering of it. And to Mark's point, you can see all of these different sorts of fabrics being applied. Other people making dance costumes sort of stuck to what was understood to work for dance, so chiffons and stretch wools, things like that. The thing that made Karynska interesting was she would go into parts of the fabric world that usually costumers didn't think about. So fabric to make curtains or furniture, or different kinds of clothing that might be for outerwear, and she'd play with the fabrics and figure out how they moved and their weight, and then she'd think about how she might be able to use them.
So she was a master at, using both. Things that were very expensive and very high quality, as well as using them next to something that was very inexpensive and very kind of, something from a trim drawer somewhere.
The other big innovation that she brought to dance costuming was the different kinds of fabrics that she used. So she was one of the very first designers to implement things like brocade and heavier fabrics, and with her unique skills as a seamstress, she would cut them and use them in ways so that they still had airiness and lightness to them, so that a dancer could still move in them. So it meant that she was able to add completely different types of textures to the costumes that hadn't been there before.
These costume designs are incredible. I mean, here's another example, this one from Western Symphony. Another example of Karynska and what she did sometimes. All of this trim is just made up of very inexpensive ribbon that usually this would have been used to do a hem, and it would be on the inside and you would never see it. But she decided to take it and ruche it up, thousands of yards of it, because all the girls in the ballet are in this same kind of costume, and she decided to ruche it up and use it as trim. And on stage, it's amazing. And another thing, when you start to look at what she did, underneath, there's all these, this is when she was so magical, because there's bows and ruffles and, all underneath, and then one big bow on the back underneath all of this. So it's something that, at first you don't see, but it's only in movement would you see that. So it's like this is a prime example of how I think Karynska was just such a magician. And so I think that in that way we do, use a lot of the techniques that she used.
Well, this is a good example of a fabric that wouldn't typically be considered for dance costuming that she used. And it's showing you her understanding of how when light hits fabric, how it looks different under the lights. So she's creating layering in colors of fabrics in order to create one unified look on the dress.
Certainly in how she layered colors, she was very interesting how she combined colors. There's a ballet called La Valse, which is a romantic tutu, and it's basically the top layers are all a charcoal gray, but then underneath she would put layers of like orange or pink or very bright colors that would kind of explode on stage in movement. So that's something she liked to do. Like the snow costumes from Nutcracker. Most people look at that and just think that they're, blue costumes because it's snow.
And this is obviously when the snow comes down. So these are the costumes for the ballet dancers depicting snow.
But then when you look at them up closely, there's a pink layer, there's a nude layer. So they're very complicated in how she layered colors to produce a look on stage.
So this is, it's actually a collage. It's a painting on a collage, but if you look closely, you can see the paper is laid on. And this is an original design by Warwara Karynska for George Balanchine's A Midsummer Night's So this dates to 1962, and you can see down here you have the two pairs of lovers.
And then we have, this is a recreation lately, but based on her original design from Midsummer Night's Dream, second act. One of the lovers. And this was interesting because when we had to rebuild Midsummer Night's Dream, I found a company called Tinsel Trading that had originally supplied Barbara with trim when she originally did this. So it was a really nice historical connection that we made. So she would have worked with them and probably bought quite a bit of trim. These kind of metallic trims is something they were famous for and that she liked using a lot.
Nutcracker was an incredibly important ballet to Balanchine, and he first choreographed his version of Nutcracker in 1954, and at that point New York City Ballet was at New York City Center, which is a beautiful theater, and it has a big stage, but not a very big stage, and it also has one big wing, but one very narrow wing. So there were limitations to what Balanchine could do on that stage, and when Lincoln-Centri was being built in the early 1960s, Balanchine was insistent on being involved in the conversations about the building of the stage, and all of the dimensions and specs that he was requiring were with his new Nutcracker in mind. So from 1954 to 1964, New York City Ballet is performing Nutcracker, but the choreography is changing from 1954 to 1964. So when they launch Nutcracker at the State Theatre, which is their permanent home, Karinska redesigns the costumes for that event, and she knew that the ballet was incredibly significant to Balanchine.
This is Dewdrop from our Nutcracker, Balanchine's Nutcracker. I love this costume because it's simple, it's beautiful on stage, but it's also, it's a little provocative because a lot of times I don't think people realize that this is only 2 layers of stretch net. So you can see my hand through it. So it's something that is a little bit of a surprise that you're...
Especially for Nutcracker, I think.
Right. So, and I just think it's a really beautiful costume. It's a simple, you know, kind of flesh colored with pink and flowers. It's very beautiful.
So this is Sugar Plum, her 2 different outfits, and her Cavalier. And you can see she loves the sparkles. And again, it's the paper cutouts that are sort of laid on top. So she just lavished an incredible amount of care and attention on every single character, not just the principal dancers, but dancers who had kind of walk-on parts in the background. Every single person's costume received an incredible amount of detail and attention, and you see lots of different fabric applications being employed, and lots of fun innovations like Mother Ginger's skirt coming up so that the polichinelles can come out from underneath it. Every single facet of the costumes was given utmost attention.
You have to look at this. This is something that most people don't even see. In front of the women's costumes. On the principal, it's a photograph of Balanchine. And then on the 3 core dancers, it's a photograph of Lincoln Kirsten. So it's like one of those things that, you know, most audiences don't ever see. But it's just one of those details that she put in, that she included in her design, which I think is a wonderful little detail.
It's all about Barbara Karinska, an appreciation of her by Walter Terry, who was a famous dance critic, and showing off all of her costumes. So the Capizio Award was the most prestigious award that could be given to a dance person in the mid-century in America. So it was a very big deal that she was awarded it. She even had an Oscar nomination for her work on the film Joan of Arc in 1948. So yeah, she's fondly remembered and was very beloved in the dance community. And as we were talking about earlier, the fact that she was given one of the first Capizio Awards in dance, that in its time was the highest award that could be given out in America within the dance field. And so it was really significant. The only other person who was sort of a non-dancer who had gotten the award at that point was Genevieve Oswald, who was the first curator of the dance division. Oh, this is lovely. This is her citation for winning the Capizio Award. So it says, Karinska, creator of costumes, cited for 11th Annual Capizio Dance Award. Madame Barbara Karinska, designer and executor of costumes for the ballet and other theatre and movie productions, has been chosen to receive the 11th Annual Capizio Dance Award, an outstanding honour in the dance field. The feeling about Karinska seems to be unanimous among all who have worked with her. There is Shakespeare for literature, and Madame Karinska for costumes, is the opinion of George Ballanchine, the choreographer. She is the Leonardo da Vinci, the Cartier, the Tiffany of her profession, says Lincoln Kirstein, General Director of the New York City Ballet. It's a little newspaper article from 1936, and it's a review of the ballet, Fokine Ballet Don Juan. And it says, the real heroine of the new Fokine Ballet Don Juan did not appear on the Alhambra stage at the first night. She is Madame Kavinsky, which is her name at that point, who remade all the costumes in 9 days and nights after they had been destroyed by a fire in Grosvenor Street. So this is in London. So all the costumes she had made for this ballet they went on fire. And so in 9 days, she remade all the costumes for the ballet. Dressmakers worked in relays 24 hours a day to finish the work, and some of the costumes arrived by taxi 20 minutes before the curtain was due to go up.
She passed away in 1983, and that was several years after she had a debilitating stroke. So she was not in good shape for the last 7 years of her life. But before that, she worked for a very long time with Balanchine, collaborating on about 75 ballets. Famously, Balanchine stated that 50% of the success of his ballets was due to Barbara Karinska's costume designs. So she was very important to him, very important to the company, and still is. We have her sketches around the shop, and we have pictures of her there to inspire us. So she's very much a part of the shop, even though she never worked in this shop.
I think Karinska's work will always, as long as New York City Ballet exists, I think people will know Karinska's work. Whether they know that it's her name or not, they'll know her work. They don't tend to change her designs because there's an understanding that her relationship with Balanchine, that it was together that they were making decisions about how the ballet would look. So it's very rare that you see the company overhaul original Karinska designs for his ballets. And then beyond that, I think the legacy that she has left to costume designers, again, whether people realize that they owe it to Karinska or not is another issue, but she has forever changed the silhouette of ballet with her tutu. That is just now the accepted tutu that everybody wears. She has innovated across the globe with that. And I think most dancers wearing their tutus nowadays have no idea that she's the person who came up with that innovation and created that design. But until somebody invents a different kind of tutu, Karinska's work will endure. I would love for people to pay more attention to her. And obviously a big part of managing an archive is about trying to save people's histories and to keep their memories alive and to encourage new generations of people to engage with those who went before them. And I think anybody starting out in dance costume design should engage with Barbara Karinska.
For I think often looking at what she's done in the past, it's the best. And so I think whenever you're trying to, come up with the costume design or come up with a new idea, you've you naturally want to look at the best, and that's what Barbara Karynska was. So certainly there are other costume designers that work in ballet, but I think that she really created probably some of the most beautiful costumes in the world for ballet, and that's, for me, that's what I always want to look at for inspiration.